Hello everybody, I thought I would make a simplified video of the summary of this course that I've done, which is Overcoming Dyslexia, offered by Yale University on Coursera, and at the moment as I speak it's free. This is a quick overview of the course. It's a beginner level, it's an 8-week commitment, 2 to 3 hours per week. It's in English and you can pass all grade assessment to complete the course. Average user rating of the course is 4.7. The syllabus. So the first week is what is dyslexia. You'll learn about the history and what it really means, the definitions, things like that. Second week is screening, evaluating, and diagnosing dyslexia. Week 3 is effective interventions for young children. Week 4 is choosing the right school for your dyslexic child. Week 5 is preparing for college and adulthood. Week 6 is comorbid conditions. Week 7 is assistive technologies and accommodations. And week 8 is the law. Week 9 is just something to remember, and I've just added my personal story down there. So that's that for the syllabus. Let's go through week by week. The instructor was Shaywitz. So week 1, first thing, we define dyslexia, an unexpected difficulty in reading for an individual who has the intelligence to be a much better reader, most commonly caused by a difficulty in the phonological processing, the appreciation of the individual sound of spoken languages, which affects the ability of an individual to speak, read, and spell. Some of these points are recurring throughout the week, which is it occurs as early as first grade, and persists if no intervention is in place. 1 in 5 people are dyslexic, and it's equal in boys and girls. The optimal age for remediation is kindergarten to first grade. It's important for us to start being aware of sounds, or what they call phonemes, to break down the sound. So cat would be k, a, t, and you can use your finger to break the sounds down. The decoding part is where the problem is and not the comprehension. I like this quote by the linguist Leonard Bloomfield: "Writing is not a language, but merely a way of recording language by visible marks." Now, the instructor explains to us how we have a sea of strengths which surround our problem of decoding. And as a dyslexic, you would already know that this is very true for us. The left side of the brain is associated with reading, and for dyslexic people, there is a glitch. Dyslexic readers use different pathways. As you can see in this picture, we would use that front part more because that bit does not connect well with the rest as compared to the non-dyslexic brain. So this is the second week. Dyslexia is specific and not the same as learning disabilities, which is a broad term. So slow reading does not mean slow thinking, and neither does IQ. Reading and IQ are not connected. Dyslexics learn how to read with hard work, much practice, and resilience. Reading interventions need to be implemented as soon as possible, no later than first grade. So children must be screened. One simple way is to listen to a child speak and see if they have difficulty. By 5 and 6 years, they should have little problem saying most words correctly. Their familiarity to nursery rhymes, sensitivity to rhymes is another indication. Sometimes they have difficulty accessing the right phoneme, the right sound, and they'll show signs of frustration or will start pointing. So you need to look out for these kind of things. And they'll replace hard words with things like stuff. I even say things a lot. Dyslexic listening vocabulary is much larger than spoken, which is why you might find yourself, like myself, to be good with music or lyrics. Linking letters to words and sounding them out will help a lot. You must build this vocabulary, and reading will help that. So you keep reading, keep practicing your reading and trying to get better. Set some checkpoints for yourself to build these neural pathways. Spelling, pronunciation, and meaning get integrated. So she was explaining how phonology, sound-based, orthographic, which is visual, and semantic, which is meaning-based, how they all connect. Fluency is very important, which is reading words quickly, reading words smoothly, and with good expression. So if you're reading and you read the word big, you'll go, oh, and then a big, big, small. So you express the sound while you're reading. And is acquired with practice and repetition. Again, you may need 4 or more successful encounters with the new word. Now, prosody is the ability to read with meaning and good expression, which I just talked about, giving that sentence some energy and in the right places with your tones and speed. In early life, a child will learn more from listening, and by 7th grade, it tips more over to reading. Books are more interesting, complicated. They have complicated words than the most eloquent speakers. Dyslexic readers so dyslexic people need more exposure to printed word over a much longer period of time before the neural pathways are well developed and come together each time they encounter that word. It's never too late to start, I must say, because I started getting better with my reading around my 20s. The more I read, the more I exercise that muscle. These connections continue to be less than robust. So even when dyslexics can decode words accurately, they are still not quick in their reading of these words. You may recognize the word, but the next time you see it, you might look at it like it was the first time you saw it, if it's not in the same context. And we struggle with smaller words like and, the, that, in, on. Now here is a table of our strengths and weaknesses. We don't understand words, inability to learn or associate letters with sounds. We have errors when sounding out, inability to read common one-syllable words, complaints about hard reading or running away or hiding when it's time to read. And my personal story, I used to skive most of my high school and college because I didn't want people to know about my reading issues. I also got in some bad habits because of this, but that's a different story. Our strengths are curiosity. We have a great imagination, ability to figure things out. We think out of the box, or we find unique solutions. Eager to embrace new ideas, getting the gist of things, good understanding of new concepts, large vocabulary for age, and enjoying solving puzzles and a talent at building models. Reading growth is maximal in the first few years of school, and then it plateaus. Universal screening is not a diagnosis, but it's a quick way to identify potential issues. Good screeners will be able to identify true positives, as in dyslexics, and true negatives, as in not dyslexics. It's advisable to wait until the second semester to have a better picture. 3 steps to the evaluating process. Establish the reading problem according to age and/or level of education. Gather evidence supporting the unexpectedness. And finally, demonstrate evidence of a phonological weakness with other high-level language functions. Reading scores are to be looked at for accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. Other areas to look at are things like attention, anxiety, memory. DNA testing is not recommended. Next week we have dyslexic people are still avid readers and enjoy reading, especially after learning the phonetic awareness to connect letters to sounds and words to spoken words. Teaching children that words rhyme and understand that letters and words break apart and come together will help. They can learn about different sounds with word combinations. Practice is very important, as already spoken about. Sight words or irregular words are the hardest because they do not follow a pattern and cannot be sounded out, therefore must be memorized and recognized. So for sight words, you can use flashcards, and if you want a reliable program, go to WhatWorks Clearinghouse. The Wilson Reading System is a structured literacy program that features Reading Connected, and I've shared some videos down there, or you can look it up on YouTube. Fluency means reading the word accurately and understanding or comprehension. So key factors in this is practice oral reading, practice reading connected text repeatedly, provide ongoing feedback as the child reads. Reading new material leads to greater growth in reading comprehension. Paired reading, guided oral reading for 15 minutes. This is what is recommended for parents to read a short story, parent-child read the story again together, and then the child reads alone. Make this a priority. Go at their pace and remember they are comfortable with the books where they can read 19 out of 20 words correctly. These are some of the fluency rates, and it's a good idea to graph this process when it happens. Measure correct words per minute during reading a short passage and getting instructions in small groups instead of big classes. Prosody we've already talked about, reading with inflection, speed, tone, reflecting the meaning of the passage. Guide and teach if necessary. Parents can enforce useful rules at home such as secret of the silent E rule, saying C, soft versus hard, taking apart compound words, two consonants surrounded by two vowels. Early vocabulary is the best predictor of reading comprehension in later grades, and this comes down to parent-child interaction. It is important for dyslexic children to learn Tier 2 vocabulary since Tier 1 is pretty common. Below is a list of what is Tier 2. Good words stretch but not too far. They are frequently enough. Introduce 10 new words every 1 or 2 weeks. Reading aloud at a young age will build vocabulary. So Tier 1 is common words found in oral language. Tier 2 consists of words found in written language, which are of high utility. Tier 3 consists of words that are limited to specialized domains such as law, medicine, and archaeology. Direct and explicit instructions will help encourage writing. There's a link for teaching basic writing skills. The biggest thing you have to remember is the preservation of the child's self-esteem. Let them know their difficulty has a name and it will be helped. I really wish I knew this back in my day. No matter what, they can count on their parents and be unconditionally loved and supported. Remind them of their value, and there is a bigger picture where they have an important role to play. Remind them of that picture we saw above, or the sea of strengths, and how they are smarter in so many ways. Let them read this post. Motivate them, support them, tell them they can do, encourage them to do the things they love and enjoy. Praise them often, encourage to read out loud, speak up for themselves, and get better at expressing using words. The next week is finding the right school. The biggest thing is the climate. Are they comfortable, or is it an unwelcoming climate where they are going to feel stupid? Good climate would be where they get proper instructions, qualified teachers, smaller groups so they can get more attention, their needs are met, there's integrated learning, and there's a boost of self-esteem. Is the school aware of dyslexia, and do they provide accommodations? Or do they think that slow reading means they're slow thinking? A lot of times, special education does not mean it's the right school for dyslexics. If there is no progress, consider changing schools to find one which has an effective reading program, or they provide the services they promise. Find a school that has understanding to avoid the child starting to begin negative behaviors the way I did. The downside of a private school is they could prioritize tradition and uniformity over unique learning needs. Teachers should be well equipped to teach through preparation, implementation, and evaluation. Certain schools emphasize on early identification. They focus on helping students to self-regulate, self-advocate, and self-monitor. Surprisingly, a lot of people who hadn't been diagnosed until very late managed to find their own ways to self-regulate. Other schools focus on children not having a sense of shame or being different, and the sea of strengths model. Remember, screening is not equal to assessment. Screening is first and has a set list, and then a detailed assessment is performed. The screening program should be evidence-based with proven validity, efficient, low cost, and readily available. 3 things to consider when planning for college, and this should begin in 9th or 10th grade. First thing is academics. Increase independency and autonomy. What do they enjoy? Their self-esteem and self-advocacy is going to be crucial. Failing is not a bad thing, and failing again will help resilience. Sharpen students' skills and attitudes. What skills they need to improve reading education, example text-to-speech, speech-to-text. Children should be judged separately from spelling, grammar, and creativity and imagination. I had a very magical teacher called Miss Susan D'Souza, which I've spoken about in a previous video, who helped me with this. So she gave me marks for being creative and imaginative in my compositions instead of just taking away my marks for bad spelling, bad grammar, and not writing on the line. Lowering expectation is not the right way to go, as it will be less rewarding. They need support with high expectations. Number 2, organizational skills. High school should be seen as a prep school, and they will need help with time management, to keep a schedule, make time for yourself, master long-term projects, and think of taking one bite at a time on large ones. And point number 3 is personal focus. Receiving personal accommodations, understand and adapt to the dyslexia, role play and understand it has a weakness and also strength, and clarify psychological issues like anxiety, ADHD, and other concurring disorders. Some tips on helping adults become better readers: discipline and high-level work ethic. Persistence will take you far. Enroll in literacy or tutoring program. Know that it's never too late to improve your skills. If anyone has any questions on how I dealt with some of my hurdles, please feel free to comment and I'll help you as best as I can, or I'll tell you what I did for myself. The next week was the connection of anxiety and or ADHD with dyslexia. It's very common. Nearly all dyslexics have anxiety, and the related ones are social anxiety disorder and panic disorder. Retrieval becomes harder with anxiety. Taking medications to deal with this should not be seen as a sign of weakness. Look up SSRIs and SNRIs. They take 4 to 6 weeks to go into effect and may have side effects. As for ADHD, CBT is very helpful. I have shared a link if you want to know more on that subject. Graded desensitization is recommended. Adderall combined with CBT is recommended. Other medications also recommended and come with side effects. Mindful practices. Never let diagnosis define you. There are very large connections between comorbidity of dyslexia and ADHD. The 3 cardinal symptoms are inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. The 3 types of ADHD are inattentive, hyperactive, impulsive, and combined. Things you can do are using schedules, rewards, goals, checklists, extra time, physical activity, sitting closer to the teacher. The next week course talks about technology. Learning how to touch type as soon as possible is very recommended. It was very helpful to me, and I'm very grateful it somehow fell into my lap. Text-to-speech apps I still use because in work I have to go through a lot of documentation, and it's so much more easier for me to understand. Children will not need this straight away, but it's a good way to get them started on these. Digitized books is another help, or reading while listening to the audiobook. Text-to-speech apps, there's a big list there. Speech-to-text there's another list there. Other tools are Quizlet, Cliff Notes, textbook scanning services, and there are vocabulary apps to help you keep your vocabulary muscle exercised. Some crucial accommodations, which has been repeated throughout the course, is asking for additional time. It is crucial and should be an obligatory for dyslexic students. It takes more effort and time to comprehend, and never feel guilty for requesting extra time. Each person requires their own time, and even with extra time, the student will feel that pressure of the time. Now this point is very strange because I've learned 6 languages and I have a love for languages, but dyslexic people struggle with foreign languages, so they can request a partial waiver for foreign language requirements in which the student can study foreign culture, politics, literature, and or history, but in English. Now for me it was easier because I was listening to Pimsleur's audio CDs to learn languages. Have textbooks digitized and provide text-to-speech technology. Find related movies or materials that help. Find ways to visualize information, example flowcharts, flashcards. Look up the software Webspiration Pro. Record your lectures so you can play them back. I do this a lot, and that's why I have a blog where even books or courses like these I will summarize into bullet points and then read and reread again, because my own summarization of things make more sense to me. Classic instrumental music will help you block out distractions, as a dyslexic brain work differently and are not automatic readers. Now this one, a lot of people know me for always having headphones, especially when I'm working or reading, because I need that constant noise for that certain part of my distracted brain to latch onto so that I can focus on doing the work at hand. Select courses that don't have too much reading or focus on meaning and concept instead of details. This is why a lot of us go into graphic design also, or jobs that don't require that much reading. The SQ3R method: survey, question, read, recite, review. So first one, survey, look over the reading, chapters, titles, summaries. Just scan them. Question, change the headings into questions and let them guide your reading. And then read, search for the answers and actively highlight, underline, and take notes. Recite, say your answers out loud. Review, go over the main points of the notes taken and recite them out loud. I became very emotional when I read this part because I figured all this out on my own. Dyslexia in college and graduate students. Lack of fluency when reading aloud is the only true sign of dyslexia in a bright adult. As the person grows, they'll find it easier to read. Next course. Now, this week's course was all about different acts in America, and I'm in Australia, so it's a big difference, but those are the acts there. The STEP Act, which was about evidence-based and proven psychometrics for validity. It had to be efficient and low cost and readily available, while the ADAAA Act provides accommodation or standardized tests and prohibits discrimination based on persons' disabilities. The Rehabilitation Act provides children with accommodation if an individual education plan can be provided. The IDEA Act requires the child must have a disabling condition and impact of the condition must create a need for special education services of the man. That's just very hard to read. 20% of students are dyslexic, yet only 2% ask for accommodations, and a lot of the teachers don't give them under the claims of the student trying to game the system or misinterpreting the rules and laws. Just because a dyslexic person has found self-mitigating measures to deal with their dyslexia does not mean they still don't need accommodations. There are lots of laws and changes constantly changing to support dyslexic people. The next week and the final week, what to remember about dyslexics. We think differently, we're intuitive, and excel in problem solving. We see the bigger picture and simplify. Oh my god, my whole blog is dedicated to simplifying long books and courses. We are abstract and out-of-the-box thinkers. We are inspired visionaries. We are tough because of our struggles and persevere through adversity that others haven't had to face. Most are lucky to have someone recognize their struggle and/or talent. So don't give up. Again, folks, anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I want to help. I don't want you to go through what I went through.